Good morning and welcome once again to another Friday live stream with Trotec Laser. This is the second in a series of monthly material masterclass presentations that we're going to be doing. I expect that these first ones are going to be some really great stuff because we're going over all of the core materials, and then as we go forward, we're going to have some more kind of cool tips and tricks. We might bring on some of the different guests. We're going to kind of review some of the catalog, some of the new stuff we might be launching this year. But you have joined us at just the right time. If you're watching live, please say hello in the chat. We're so happy you could join us. Let us know where you're watching from, all that good stuff. Jennifer, Kirk, very happy to have you all with us. Just like last month, if you guys didn't see the last stream, I will introduce you to my two co-hosts this morning, the stars of the hour, if you will. Kelly, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome,
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. I will say both Kelly and Alan are tremendously knowledgeable about our Trotec materials, but Kelly, did you want to just kind of give us a quick, like, in a nutshell rundown of what you do with Trotec?
Sure. I am the materials manager, so I deal with everything materials, customer service, purchasing, and all that good stuff.
There was no way to list the entire list and keep it still in
No.
it. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Materials. I do materials.
Both Kelly and Alan, I will say, they're both they're very humble, but they're both very critical to the success of our business week in and week out. There's no doubt about that. I'm very proud to throw that out there. Alan, how about yourself, sir? How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. Happy to have you.
Yeah.
Do you maybe same question to you? How would you kind of sum up your role for anybody who's meeting you the first time?
I am the head of the materials business unit for Trotec North America. So everything from Mexico to the very tip of Baffin Island.
No pressure. Well, you're doing a great job to both of you, I will say. I don't think our materials catalog has ever been more interesting, more exciting. I will say I'm spoiled, of course, because I get to see some of the stuff prior to it launching. So I get to see some of the sneak peeks and things even, before you guys, before we can share them with you. I've seen some of the ones that get rejected. I've seen some of the ones that might be coming down the pipe. So I think we have some cool stuff this week, though. Or this, particular stream, we're going to be focusing principally on our woods and acrylics, which, in terms of like what makes up our core product mix, Kelly, would you say, what does woods and acrylic represent for us? I know Lamicoids kind of still remains our kind of principal seller, I assume.
Yeah. Well, our acrylic line has been growing since we started launching it a few years back. So
Sure.
I would say between the woods and the acrylic, we're looking probably at a good 20-25% of our business.
Awesome. I would also say, by and large, in my experience, most of the favorites of the people who work at Trotec will be summarized in this stream. There's something wonderful and simple and fantastic about acrylics, just not only in the fact that you can get so many great treatments, so many great, cool effects on them, but then, they're just big, bright, beautiful, colorful squares, basically. There's just kind of no, there's very low barrier to entry. If you've got a laser and you've got some acrylic, I promise you can do something cool with it. It was, where I started with Trotec, and I think realistically, like the effects and the types of acrylics we've gotten now, even in just the 3-4 years that I've been with Trotec, have gotten so much cooler and so much more exciting. When we started, we had some of the, or when I started, I should say, pardon me, we had some of the, the cool colors that were coming in, some of the phosphorescence, some of the, the bright neon colors and stuff. But now, with the glitters, the mirrors, I don't, necessarily want you to give up anything that's going to be coming down the line, but I feel like, acrylics is kind of where it's at. It's a cool, it's a cool product line.
Yep.
we've kind of, I mean, it's about 5 minutes in, 5-10 minutes. I know it's, oftentimes I'd like to give people a little bit more time to jump in, but you know what, we've got a lot to cover today. Shall we maybe hop over to the presentation and kick things off?
Sure.
I will say really quick before Kelly gets started, if anyone has any questions, please never hesitate to throw them in the chat. We might not necessarily interrupt Kelly's stream of thought right mid-sentence, but I promise you I'm always watching. I'm always gathering up all the little comments and questions and things, and then we will try and have little breaks as we go, and I can throw as many questions at Kelly and Alan as I possibly can. So if you have any questions about anything consumables related to Trotec, this is definitely the stream to throw them out there. With no further ado, though, shall we go over to the woods, maybe?
Perfect.
Or maybe the acrylics. Oh, curveball.
We could start with acrylics. That's fine with me.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So when you're navigating our catalog or our website, you'll notice up in the top right-hand side of the screen, there's a little legend that kind of tells you the features of the materials. So if you want to know if something's laserable, or if you can put 3M on it, if you can rotary engrave it, all of that information is in that legend. And I believe there's an explanation of the legend in the catalog and on the website as well. So our acrylics are all 2x4 sheets, just a little under 2x4 sheets. They're all cast acrylic except the mirror, which is extruded acrylic because it's engraved from the back. So really the as long as the cut is good, they didn't need it to be cast. So the difference between the two is when you engrave an extruded acrylic, it engraves clear. And when you engrave a cast acrylic, you get that sandblasted look or that white frosty engraving. So that's why the cast acrylic is so popular. So starting with the color gloss, the line of color gloss is anywhere from semi-transparent to semi-translucent. So there's a wide range of colors there. Used for all kinds of different applications, signage and crafting, pretty much anything you can use acrylic for.
Sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, pretty much. So we can just flip through the different categories. So the color gloss is probably the most popular. Mm-hmm. The color gloss metallic is a semi-opaque, solid metal look to it. So the look is conformative through the whole sheet. So when you cut it, it's not like a layer on top or a layer on the bottom.
Yeah, you can see it here in the video. I mean, it's in practice, it is almost identical to the other color glosses, just where the first color gloss, like you were saying, are principally like one color, and they might be different levels of translucency. This one looks like a solid metal all the way through, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it's not a backing or a top. It's conformed through the whole sheet. I find like engraving it, you get that white engraving, but it doesn't show up a lot. So it's really nice for inlay and cutting out letters.
I feel like it's underrepresented too. This is one that, I mean, there are, how many colors of the color gloss metallic? It's
I think four.
Yeah.
I think four, yeah.
It's one I don't often necessarily think to use myself, but whenever I do, like you can see in some of the product images, it really is beautiful. Like it gives off that same beautiful metallic finish as the Lamicoids do, but
yeah, well, it's nice because sometimes you want that whole gold color all the way through, and the only other option we have is the trolays. So without having those black edges, it's a good option, and it's a little bit thicker. So you have the 3mm in all of the color gloss. And actually the only acrylics that we have that are more than 3mm, we have a 5mm in the reverse. And in the clear, we have a whole range of thicknesses.
Yes. I love that application. It's so silly, but like, I mean,
Yeah, it's really nice. So the LED we should remove from this presentation because it's discontinued, which is unfortunate because it has some really nice features, but should we even talk about them if we don't have them? Probably not. And
Also,
the same as the Duo as well.
The beard I have in
go.
some of the videos that happen to be a part of these slides makes it worth pulling them out regardless. So I will just I'll co-sign that as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we were still presenting it, but we just ran out of the last of our stock, so it's time to remove it from the presentation.
So as that goes, though, I'll throw this to the two of you. If we have a product that, so occasionally we do discontinue products, it's principally just based on sales. It's nothing to do with, I mean, as you can tell from Kelly's response, like we really like the LED, we really like the Duo as well, but just, they aren't as popular, and so it doesn't necessarily make sense for us to carry, a great deal of stock in them. When it comes to our discontinued products, if you have a customer that still is looking to get that, if there's somebody watching the stream right now who's always wanted to try LED and just didn't have a chance, is there any way that someone can go about, making a special order for any of these, or do we have a process in place for something that's been discontinued?
Well, in theory, we could still get them. It's possible. We're looking at acrylic suppliers right now, so we can definitely look at maybe bringing back certain colors if the demand is there.
I assume most of it would be an MOQ though too. If you want to order something, like special order something from us, it may be possible, but expect that you might have to order a certain number of sheets in order to make that, a feasible.
Yeah, and that particular product comes from Europe, so it's not like if you came to me today and said, I really need that LED product, that I would get it in even 3 months. Like we'd be looking probably more at 6 months.
Yes, absolutely.
But like I said, we're looking at other suppliers to add some acrylics to our lineup, so anything could happen. And we really loved that LED product when we put it out in Canada, but because we were a little behind Europe on it, it didn't start to catch, and they were already discontinuing it when our people started to really like it. So yeah, it was a bit of a catch-22, but we'll definitely look at all of those ones that we discontinued and start to maybe think about bringing some popular colors back.
True. I guess I want to let you keep going, but one last question, I guess, kind of in this vein is, if a customer would like to see something from us, I know we kind of covered this off in the last stream, but for anybody who's watching for the first time, if they'd like to see a particular color, a particular finish, a particular something that we don't currently carry, what would you suggest? I mean, should people reach out to you or to Alan or to kind of whoever their local consumables rep is and say, hey, I'd love if you guys could carry this, holographic acrylic obviously is the one that always comes to mind for me, but whatever it might be.
I would say yes. Just send us an email, let us know, because sometimes people have just said one little thing about a material, and when I mention it, next thing you know, we're coming out with it. So we do listen, and we do pass on the information to the people who decide what we're getting.
True, absolutely. Troglass refer. Oh yeah.
So we missed satins though. If you want to back up, because the satins have a really nice finish. So we used to have the frosted and the satins.
Yes.
The frosted was more of a textured material, so if you ran your fingers over it, it was actually pebbly. The satins has the same look, so it looks like kind of frosty, but it's a nice smooth finish. So out of the two lines, we decided that the satins was the better choice to keep because it had almost all the same colors. So we stuck with the satins, but it's a really beautiful acrylic.
100%. And as you can see in the video, engraves particularly well, I think.
Yeah.
We've got, I should just mention really quickly, we've got Lev in the background running the slideshow and the chat and a lot of different things for us all at the same time. So a huge Thanks, Dave. I always like to kind of throw that in there just in case every time, but yeah, big appreciation.
So the Troglass reverse, it comes in two thicknesses, 3mm and 5mm, 2x4 sheets like usual. So it works the same way as our regular trolleys. If you're used to using our trolleys reversed, you're engraving from the back, you're mirroring your image on the back, and then you can backlight it or you can paint fill it. The difference between the two materials is the trolleys version is pliable and the Troglass version is a plexi finish. So it's like really hard, glossy, shiny. It's a really beautiful material. It's gives you the opportunity to use more than one color. So if you engrave off the back, you can see it actually in the video that he's running right now, is you engrave off what you want the first color to be, you paint it, engrave off the second color, paint it, and you can pretty much add in as many colors as you want from there.
I'm always impressed at how easily you're able to describe this very complicated material.
I've said it quite a few times.
This is true.
Yeah.
Maybe a quick question I'll throw over to Alan really fast.
Sure.
In terms of common issues that you see people having with the acrylics. So, what are often some of the feedback or the kind of the FAQ on acrylics? What are the kind of typical some tips and tricks that you would often be giving out to people if it's their first time using the material?
Well, the biggest trick that I would say with acrylic is, as Kelly mentioned, extruded will always engrave clear, and cast will typically engrave white. But that's only if you engrave it in focus. If you want to use a cast material and say color fill it, and you don't want that hazy white in between the clear and your paint, if you run it about 1/8 of an inch out of focus, maybe a little less than that, you can actually get the cast to go clear.
That's true.
That's the one trick. And then the other trick is there's sort of a certain thickness of acrylic that you can get through with a given laser power in a single pass, but you can always run multiple passes. If you've got a 30-watt laser and you want to cut 1/4 inch or 3/8, you can do it in multiple passes. The trick is just to each pass drop your focus a little bit into the material, and then you'll get a more consistent edge as you go through. It'll kind of, if you just do 3 passes with the same focus, you'll see on the edge sort of the 3 lines. Mm-hmm. And if you drop your focus because of the shape of the beam, the second pass is actually removing that line from the first pass, and the third pass is removing the line from the second pass. So you get a much better edge quality if you just drop it a little bit into the material. You're not going right through. You don't want to put the head on the top of the surface, but if you're doing it in 3 passes, drop 1/3 of the material each pass, 1/3 of the thickness of the material each pass.
That's actually a really good point. Particularly when, the edge quality that you get with laser cutting acrylics is one of the kind of chief reasons I think that draws people to using lasers with acrylics, right? It's that flame polish that you get automatically with each cut. I'm going to see if there's another video we have. There's I'm not sure if we can show it now or, maybe a little bit later in the stream, but we have a great laser hack video that I think shows exactly what you're discussing there really well. Where, as you say, if you're, if you think of the laser as sort of like a, wave form, like a, up and down gradually over the course of the thing, wherever your focal point is, right, wherever that laser comes to its finest point is exactly where you're going to see kind of that hard edge, as you say. So if you have it, focused partially down through the piece of acrylic, when you then focus deeper down, it's just going to wipe out that first line, as you say, as it kind of goes across. Let's see if maybe
I wanted to add something actually to
Please.
Something Alan said about getting different effects when you engrave the extruded or the cast acrylic. If you go to mytrotec.ca, under the marketing tab, there's a tab for prints, and the engraver's guide is in there. Or if you have a Trotec machine, you probably have a hard copy of the engraver's guide. In there, there's all kinds of different tips and tricks on how to do stuff. There's QR codes to bring you to different materials and different applications. One of them is doing the testing. So setting up using the color mapping to have a grid of what effects you'll get with what settings. So I just thought I'd mention that if you were looking to do something different with cast or extruded and you wanted to get a different look, that's a really good way to do that.
Absolutely. And that's one we mentioned to a lot of customers too. That's also available on our YouTube channel. We've shown that off before. I mean, if you do a search on our YouTube channel for material settings, you'll find a video that shows exactly what Kelly is talking about. And it's just the fastest, easiest way to test any new material that you're using. I think, so here, yes, sorry, here really quick is a little bit of what Alan was showing, and also, or Alan was speaking to, pardon me, and also, I mean, a really great laser hack in terms of, you know, being able to cut through thicker material than you typically, you know, might be able to, given, you know, the standard power of your laser. But there's a really great kind of slow motion shot that comes up here in just a moment, and it'll show exactly what you're discussing. So, when they go over the side of the laser, right there. So you can see exactly as the laser passes over, you can see, I mean, in slow motion, obviously, but you can see the laser cutting away the acrylic there. If that laser wasn't able to reach all the way down, as Alan mentioned, you would see kind of a very finite line, you know, part of the way on the block of acrylic. So by gradually, you know, decreasing your focus and moving the laser head closer and closer and closer, you end up with that same beautiful, you know, flame polished edge without, you know, necessarily having to cut all the way through in a single pass. And there's the engraver's guide, exactly as Kelly was saying. So you will ever see this, Kelly's exactly right, in your starter kit if you purchased a laser from us here in Canada. But it is always available on mytrotec.ca. You can go in, there are the QR codes on every page. That'll take you to different tips and tricks and all that good stuff, as you mentioned. And if you search up finding the perfect material settings, I believe it is on our YouTube channel, you can also find the grids and the various ways to test with a new material.
And that site is actually a really good resource in general. So if you go to that tab, you'll see our catalog is in there as well. And so is the machine catalog. So if you wanna look up information about what size beds we have or any of that kind of thing, all of our catalogs are in there. So it's a good resource. True. If you haven't visited it.
Absolutely, no problem, Sebastian. You had a great question here too. I want to throw to Alan and Kelly. Is the reverse able to be used with the rotary?
Yes, that's another advantage of cast acrylic over extruded acrylic, which as a laser focused company, we don't really talk about very much. But cast acrylic also machines better than extruded acrylic. Extruded acrylic tends to melt a little bit more, tends to stick to the cutter more. And cast is much more machinable. So yes, absolutely, you can definitely use the Troglass reverse, the Trolaze reverse, the Troply reverse. Any of those will work perfectly with a rotary machine or a mechanical engraver.
Awesome. That I was actually going to ask you. So it applies to both the acrylic and the laminacoid as well.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
And actually, the Troply reverse ultra is really similar to the Troglass reverse as opposed to the Trolaze reverse. So it's that hard, rigid material and glossy, yeah.
Very cool. So, I mean, this one kind of speaks for itself, but do we want to cover off the clear really fast just because it is, again, like a pretty core piece for us?
Yep. So we have everything from 3mm to 20mm and everything in between. So pretty much anything you need to do if you need to equip a hockey rink. They have those big, thick acrylic glass. Yeah, so I don't know why it's 10 colors there, but
Yes, I mean,
10 thicknesses.
10 thicknesses, yeah.
Yeah.
It does tend towards the same color, if I'm honest. So in terms of sort of adding on to what we were discussing before, laser power versus thickness for cutting, do you guys have kind of a standard rule? I know I was taught one, but do you have, like, Alan, is there sort of a standard that you go to for somebody if they say, hey, can I cut this thickness with my laser, in terms of like wattage versus, thickness of material?
It varies a lot by machine. Different laser tubes are going to cut differently. They've got different frequencies available, and just the way they pulse and things like that. So it's not exactly consistent. But generally, it used to be, you used to say, what was it? It was 1 millimeter for every 10 watts of power that you have available.
That's what I was told too.
So
in a perfect scenario, of course.
Yeah, so a 30 watt could cut 3 millimeter in a single pass. It varies a little bit, like I say, by machine. It varies significantly based on how good of shape your machine is in.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an example, on a perfectly aligned, perfectly clean, brand new machine, you're going to lose about 5 to 10% of your power through your optics anyways.
Really?
And yes, and as the machine gets older, your mirrors get dirty, your lens gets dirty, anything like that, which blocks any of your power, will make that even more pronounced. So, that's one thing that people should look at if they're not getting the performance that they think they should be in a particular thickness of acrylic. Definitely go back and just make sure that everything's clean. The other thing that is a function of cast is that the thickness varies considerably. Extruded acrylic will be exactly the thickness that it's supposed to be, within 1/1000th of an inch. Cast acrylic, and it doesn't matter what manufacturer, cast acrylic is typically going to be plus or minus 10% of the thickness. And that's not even lot to lot. That can be within a single sheet, because it's literally it's acrylic poured into a mold and allowed to settle and cool. So another trick that people should know for cast acrylic is, if you have, say, an edge light holder that's an exact thickness, say it's for a 3 millimeter piece of acrylic, your acrylic may be a little bit thicker than 3 millimeters. It may be a little under 3 millimeters. If it's under, it's generally not a problem. If it's over and it doesn't fit in the holder, all you have to do is just run basically a black rectangle on the bottom edge and just use your laser to reduce the thickness until it fits into your holder.
Yep.
You can find extruded acrylic that'll be better, but it doesn't have the same properties. It won't work as well as cast in other ways. There's also a product out there called Precision Cast, which is much more exact, but it's also double the price. So it's typically not cost effective to use those. So that's the easiest way to fix that, is basically just you're essentially machining a lip for your holder.
I would always recommend to anything that needs to fit specifically into, so if you're doing any kind of inlay, anything where you have to measure kerf. We always recommend it obviously for, organic materials like wood, right? Where there's, always going to be a little bit of a slight, it's an organic material, right? It's always going to be very slightly different from sheet to sheet. But when it comes to acrylic, you make a very good point that, prior to doing anything really, really specific with your sheet of acrylic, even if you've done it 10 times before, just use a caliper and do the quick measurement on the thickness around the edge. Because as you say, it can vary in thickness just from one corner to the other. So, for the few seconds it'll take you, believe you me, it'll save you so much headache potentially coming down the line.
And digital calipers are so cheap now.
Yes.
Back when I grew up, it was called a vernier caliper, and you had to do math to figure out the measurement. Now you just turn it on and away you go.
Hooray! Really quickly, Sébastien, very glad you could join us. Yes, this stream, after it's finished, will be available on the Canadian Trotec Laser YouTube channel, the American Trotec Laser YouTube channel. Just do a quick search for Trotec Laser on YouTube, and you will find it really quickly. Not sure, Kelly, are you able to sort of speak to the Novus cleaning products? I know, so this is something we offer in Canada. Is it something that we have in our US branch as well, Alan?
We don't offer it in the US because it's available so many. I mean, you can get it from Amazon, so.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you don't get Tro points at Amazon is the one thing for any of our.
For us, yeah. But I don't think the US has Tro points.
That's true.
No.
Yet.
Yes. Okay, I'm excited. The glitter.
Oh, so exciting.
In my first ever video at Trotec, so excuse if I'm holding something up camera in this video and you see my hands are like shaking, you'll know why.
So it's our only acrylic that we only sell the full sheet because it's an odd size sheet. So it's 40 by 24. So we can cut it for you if you need it cut, but we don't sell quarter sheets or half sheets. It's a pretty fantastic material because it's great for crafting, decorations, cake toppers, all those kind of fun stuff. And look forward to maybe some new colors in the fall that we may be adding. They might be closer to between fall and Christmas. But yeah, look for new colors coming in the glitter.
And your presentation is missing the green and the red too.
Also pretty important for Christmas, if I'm honest. Yeah, the glitter, I think, is it fair to say that this was something of a, you can see the red right here. That's the dark red. That's actually two shades of red. Yeah.
Yes.
Was this something of a surprise? I mean, I'll be honest, I was so early in my time with Trotec that I didn't know really what to expect in the beginning, but this is the sort of thing, I guess, that I'm speaking to when I said I think acrylic is a lot of people's favorites, because it's the sort of, it might seem very particular or very sort of focused on one type of application, but the popularity and the kind of the creativity that we see from customers with a product like this is still blows me away.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the full sheet, it looks a bit tacky, right? And that was my first thought too. But then when you start to see all the cool things that you can do with it, it's actually a really nice material.
Absolutely. I was trying not to say tacky, but I won't lie now that you've said it. I kind of thought too, like, ooh. But then, I'm also wearing it as a necklace in this video, so I'm kind of jumped the shark on that one.
Yeah, where is that necklace, Don?
Lev has it, I think.
Should have wore it.
I think it's still, yeah. I'm afraid, yeah, somebody accidentally ran it over with my car a couple times. But I will say it's very, when you see it as a full sheet, as you say, like it's almost, 2 foot by 4 foot, like it's quite a thing to see. But you mentioned cake toppers. Cake toppers is one of those ones that just like, it's stunning as a cake topper. This and the mirror in particular, I think it really it shines in those sort of applications. No pun intended.
Yeah, and it's a cast acrylic, so it engraves white. So I think it showed a few decorations where he did engraving, but really as a cutout item, it's even nicer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To that point, really quick question here from Paul that I'll throw over to Alan. So in terms of acrylics that can be machined, is it all of the cast
acrylic?
Yeah. Okay.
Cast acrylic. Extruded you can, but you need to use a coolant, so it can get a little bit messy. And for the difference in price, extruded is typically cheaper than cast, but for the difference in price, you're not going to save anything by the time you finish machining it.
I will say, so Kelly, you mentioned earlier that all of our acrylic is cast except for
Mirror.
the mirror.
Because
Gotcha.
most people wouldn't be engraving the front anyway. And
True.
correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, but I think the extruded acrylic, maybe you get a nicer edge when you cut it.
If it's a difference in the edge, it's very marginal when you laser cut it. The biggest reason, there's two reasons why they went to extruded over cast. One is typically with the mirrors, people want it clear, right? When they engrave it, they want to see through it or they want to paint it. So having them have to do that extra step of being out of focus and paying more to make the materials and then still having to do that. And then the other thing is with the mirror, you get a better look to it if the thickness is consistent, right? Because there's that parallax effect that you get when you look through something and you see sort of the different, like a holographic image almost. You get a different look to it at different thicknesses. So if it's extruded, it's going to look more consistent as well as engraved more consistently.
Right. And I suppose, too, if there was any difference in thickness of the mirror, you might get some sort of warping of the image too, the reflection, right? Like
exactly
the Troglass Funhouse mirror package. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of cool in its own way, but perhaps slightly fewer applications.
Well, you can always heat bend it if you
yes. You mentioned
which he's doing.
I was going to say the heat bender because it happens to be on the screen. This is an item that we offer in Canada, and I believe in the States as well, if I'm not mistaken. No? Okay,
no,
so that's why I asked.
Yeah, again, it's available all over the place already.
In terms of its uses, though, with acrylic, really, really cool. You'll see it, I think, a few times during some of the videos we'll be showing here during the acrylic section, but really not that hard to do, despite seeming kind of tricky. If you have a larger piece that you're trying to get, a uniform bend all the way across, certainly there are, tips and tricks for how to do it. But on a smaller piece like this, a little handheld piece, pretty easy, realistically. I mean, you saw, I believe it was Lev doing it in that video where just heat it up, test it, heat it up, test it, and slowly over time it kind of gets a little bit of bend and give, and then you're good to go. Kelly, do you have any experience in using the heat benders at all?
I haven't used them. I've just explained how to use them.
How did I do
But
it?
I haven't actually ever done it.
Yeah.
Gonna be honest.
Fair enough. That's why I asked.
Yeah, the one trick with the heat benders for getting consistent bends is similar to what I talked about with the cast acrylic and the LED holders. If you just do a line, engrave a line or a small rectangle, thin rectangle into the material where you want the bend, stuff is always going to bend at the weakest point. So if you were doing like a 24-inch wide tent sign, which I don't know why you would, but if you just do basically a bend line with your laser, a score line, when you go to bend it, it's going to bend on that line.
That's really smart. I don't know why that never occurred to me, but that makes perfect sense. See, this is why I will encourage anyone who might be joining us late, if you have any materials-related questions, this is the stream to do it, because there's a reason I'm not hosting this stream. Kelly and Alan know this stuff so well, backwards and forwards. Really quick question from Jennifer. I'm not sure, so I personally don't know, but I have a diode laser, she says, which doesn't cut all acrylic. Do you know if I can cut the glitter?
Probably not, because it's still a 3 millimeter acrylic. It cuts virtually identical to a clear 3 millimeter acrylic, but with a diode laser, you typically just don't have the power to get into it like that.
Quick sort of related question here from Daniel. Any tips for not getting rough edges when cutting the glitter? Getting smooth edges with the clear, but not the glitter. I assume that might be to do with the kind of glitter coating. Yeah.
Well, it's not a coating, right? The glitter goes all the way through.
It's actually through.
Yeah.
I see.
It's actually suspended in the acrylic resin. But I mean, the stuff that I've done with the glitter hasn't been rough. so I'm not exactly sure. I would check. Again, a general rule of thumb with acrylic is the higher the PPI or the frequency, depending on your machine, the smoother the edge is going to be. So you might want to just check what frequency or what PPI you're using for your cut and see if you can just increase that, because I mean the glitter particles themselves are also acrylic, so they really shouldn't affect the cut quality at all.
If it were something
it
also
should
that
cut like clear, yeah.
Yeah, if it were something that you should, or that you could get a picture of too, Daniel. Like, I don't know if you're able to show any of the difference between, the two in sort of a photo, but if you wanted to send that to us, that could be something we could take a look at too, to see if there's anything we can see that would, kind of lead to that question there. I assume, so Paul, I believe, Paul mentions speeds and feeds, so I assume he's talking about, sort of, would you machine it in the same way as like metal or wood or?
Not really. Again, the biggest issue with acrylic when you're machining is the heat. And your tool is putting a lot of heat into the acrylic. And so the trick is to get rid of that heat as quickly as possible. So typically you're using a single flute upcut spiral for people in the biz. Laser people won't know any of those words.
True.
Once you put them all together. And you actually want to run acrylic at a speed where your tool is almost overloaded, because you want to get the biggest chips that you possibly can, because the bigger the chip, the more heat each one takes out. So contrary to what you do with wood or metal, you want to cut acrylic just on the edge of being too fast.
Wow. Okay. To be honest, I didn't know that, but I mean, that's really cool. Thank you. Really, so last but certainly not least, I believe this is the last one. I'll throw it to Kelly really quickly about the mirror, because I think there'll be potentially some great questions here, especially with this video where we did some fun stuff with it.
So like I said before, it's a 2x4 sheet. We do sell them in half sheets, quarter sheets. We have the silver, so the regular mirror, the gold, and the rose gold. As I mentioned earlier, we engrave them usually from the back, so you can see the video running now. Like with the reverse materials, you're mirroring your image. You can backlight it, or you can paint the back, or you can put a backing. Here he's painting it, but we've seen some work with putting wood as a backing and having like a really nice wood coming through on the mirror. So you could get really creative with the mirror material.
Absolutely. So I want to sort of speak to the fiber laser application that we did here on engraving the front. But can I ask a quick sort of clarifying question? So we were saying, Alan, last time that the glitter, for example, is, for sake of, I know it's maybe an oversimplification, but for ease of explanation, it's kind of like a clear acrylic with the color and the glitter particles throughout the entire piece.
Right.
Whereas this, if I'm not mistaken, is it the coating on the back, the sort of opaque coating that you see when you flip the piece over, that gives it the mirror reflective thing?
Yeah, the mirror is basically a reverse engraved material, like the Tro Glass reverse or the Tro Laser reverse. Exact same principle, except you've got a mirror foil on the back. So it's clear acrylic with that mirror finish foil on the back, and then you just reverse engrave through the foil if you want to go clear.
Exactly like you're seeing here.
Yeah.
So Alan is exactly right. So really quickly, in a nutshell, I'll try and explain as fast as I can. In this video, what you're seeing here is this is done with a CO2 laser. So in order to get the sort of clear result, as they're saying, that you can then paint, or as Kelly said, you could use a backer, whatever you'd like to do. You would have to reverse engrave. So flip your image the other way around, turn the piece over, engrave it on the back, and then it shows through as a transparent piece. But you'll notice when we engrave the rose gold here that we engrave through the front. The reason that we're able to do that is we're using a fiber laser source. So because of the nature of the wavelength of the fiber laser, it's able to pass, as I understand it, through the clear acrylic and only hit the sort of foil on the back. So you're able to engrave through the front. Yes, exactly. Thank you. So with the fiber, it gives a really beautiful engraving quality and dissolves the film without harming the front of the acrylic. So when we took that out, it still looks perfectly uniform, looks brand new on the front, but you get the exact same result as you do by reverse engraving with the CO2, if not perhaps a slightly nicer engraving even, if possible. So just a really cool kind of trick to keep in mind if you have a material like this, or even, as I understand it, a regular glass mirror. If you have a piece of glass, like a mirrored piece of glass, you can use it to do the exact same effect, essentially. A question from Joey. Can we put 3M on the Trolleys reverse and still engrave on the back and paint? So basically, could you reverse engrave on a piece after the 3M's been applied? That's a big no from Alan, I'm going to say.
Technically, you can, but it's going to be a mess.
It's going to make it a lot harder, if nothing else.
Yeah, first of all, you can't really engrave through the backing paper on the adhesive. So now you either have to peel off all of the backing paper, or you have to do a vector cut through the backing paper without affecting the material underneath. It gets very complicated trying to do that, and it's not. They say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's not worth the trouble. You're better off in a case like that to just use a spray adhesive afterwards,
or the sheets,
or you could buy the sheets of adhesive and apply them after the fact.
Now, I was going to say the sheets, but the issue with that, potentially, I suppose the adhesive itself is transparent. So
sort of.
But you know what I mean? Like if you have anything that is transparent, so you could see.
Yeah, it's cloudy and it's yellow, but yeah.
What I might suggest, depending on the size of your piece, so the 3M is surprisingly powerful. Like it's really strong stuff. So if you have something, let's say you're doing this mirror piece here, for example, I don't know, just as an example, that is, I believe, a half sheet or perhaps even almost a full sheet. If you put some 3M in the corners and the sides, I mean, around the edges that you haven't engraved, it is probably strong enough, provided that you're hanging it indoors, let's say, as opposed to, outdoors, that it's going to more than be strong enough to hold up your piece of acrylic on the wall or wherever you're mounting it. Again, obviously, in a perfect scenario, I would always prefer that somebody use standoffs or something that, we know for sure is going to give it the strength it needs to be mounted. But at the same time, if you're in a pinch, there are ways to work around it. As you said, there are sheets are they 24 by 12 sheets of 3M, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. 12,
quarter sheet size?
24 by 12, yeah.
Cool.
Actually, if you just look right in the middle of the screen right now, they did a mirror, and that's an example of the wood backing. So they engraved the back and then they put wood. So
it does look really nice. I mean,
it's really nice.
It's really nice. Quick question here I'll throw up just while I don't know if we'll have time to transition over to the woods this week. It's always amazing. I'm sorry, I always ask too many questions, but we did talk about Trolleys Premium last month. Do either of you know if we will see any of the metallic colors for the lights of the Fins Premium?
Short answer is no. The issue typically with the metallics on white is you don't get good contrast because the metallics all tend to be light and or reflective. And so you don't get good image quality on a white surface. Having said that, the minimum order for the lights would be 200 sheets. And if you're willing to buy 200 sheets of a particular color over white, we can definitely do it. But again, there's only a few cases where we do a metallic over white. It's typically like a bronze, so a very dark metallic color for it to actually look okay.
To your sort of what we were discussing earlier, though, if there is a particular kind of very specialty, let's say, color or a custom piece that you'd like to see, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I mean, the worst we can say is, we don't have it at this time, but we can look into it, whatever it is. But you never know. You may very well be the 10th person that week to reach out to us. And, you might be the person who ends up, we'll bring in this particular color. We're seeing that appeal for it, right? So you never hesitate to ask.
I mean, there could be ways that you could achieve those colors if you needed to. Like if you were in a pinch and you needed to, you could mask the silver black, engrave it, and then paint it white. There's just a few different ways you could do it if you were in a pinch. But if you're doing like full production on stuff, then the 200 sheet minimum would.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the gold and the silver and the brushed aluminum in reverse that you could paint fill white.
Yeah, I think he wanted the thin though, was his question. But you could always cut out the white and stick it onto the silver too. Like there's just, depends what you want to do. Depends what you're doing. Yeah.
Very true. We have a really quick ROI case here for some acrylic. But as just a quick stop off, Tim, very quick question. Do we have any PVC free vinyl? No. Not that I'm aware of. Vinyl cutting is great, but typically I think it's fair to say is a blade cutter application for the most part.
Yeah, it's it used to be available. Now there's only this one company in England that has it still. And it's another one of those things where by the time you pay to get the laserable vinyl, you could have somebody else cut regular vinyl for you, and it would still be cheaper. Yeah. So there's just not a real good business case for it, unfortunately. There are some. You guys do sell some of the laser foils, which are basically the same thing. They're just metallic finish.
Yes, they do. I will say they do vary in terms of from color to color. The resulting. I mean, we've had different results in different colors, right? So the gold pen looks great. Some of the other colors maybe are a bit more hit or miss sometimes. So if you were interested in checking out our foil, I would say reach out to Kelly and maybe request a small sample. And just see if it's going to work for your application, because it is, in terms of its use case, it's similar to vinyl, but I wouldn't say it works exactly the same as vinyl does, because it kind of also has a bit of a gold leaf thing about it as well. And as much as you can see here,
it's very thin.
It's very thin. Yeah. It is when it works well though, and I think so. In this case, it was Anthony doing these for us. It is beautiful. Like it's gorgeous. It's really really nice. But I will say that, some of the colors I think work better in certain circumstances than others. So just, worth a quick test ahead of time before committing to a full roll, let's say. So I don't know necessarily if we have time for the ROI. We could breeze through it really fast. I will say anyone who has our lasers in Canada, your laser will have come, just as Kelly mentioned, your laser will have come with the engraver's guide, and it also comes with the demo menu. The demo menu contains all of the ROI cases. There's one for every piece of sample material that we send with the laser. So in this case, you can see we did a sample POP display. It uses one of our color gloss materials. It looks a lot like the clear, but it has a beautiful kind of blue tint to it. So at this time, and again, the prices you'll see in these slides are more, they're very approximate, but you can always reach out to us to find out what the current price would be. In this case, we're using a quarter sheet, which at the time was, about $17. On the left, we have a breakdown of if you're only doing a single stand, whereas on the right, we're showing if you are able to do the entire quarter sheet, so you're able to fit 12 stands on there. It's done using a 360 flex, which is why we're only using a quarter sheet in order to fit the bed size there. As you can see on the left, the engraving cut time for that single POP display is a minute. Whereas on the right, I mean, it's almost 10 minutes, but that's only about 49 seconds per stand. So you can see how it's, you're able to kind of optimize based on having, a number of applications spread out, horizontally across the bed. And then these are kind of a basic cost breakdown for how you might look at charging for it. So were you to create, a single stand, again, on the left, the single stand, the right, the 12 stands, you might charge your customer a $25 setup fee and a retail price of about $21 for the unit. So you have $46.62 in revenue coming in. Again, you have to take into effect your cost as well. So for the quarter sheet, divided by 12, it's $1.43 for the material. If you were paying somebody $15 or minimum wage, $15 an hour to do the setup on the laser, for the 2 minutes of setup, we'll say that it takes to do that single one, you're maybe paying 50 cents. And then, at $100 an hour, roughly, for your engraving cut time, with the 1 minute cut, it's going to cost you about $1.67. So you're making a profit of, $43 roughly. On the right side there, you can see a similar breakdown, but for the full quarter sheet of the 12 pieces. You can see we're offering a 10% break on the price there, because the person, your client, potentially is purchasing 12 of them, but you're still able to charge roughly $230 plus your same $25 setup fee, which you should always charge regardless of how big your job is. But then you can see your costs remain virtually unchanged. You've still paid for the quarter sheet, so $17.11. It's still only a 2-minute setup, because it's a file you've created once and you only have to create it once, so it's the same 50-cent cost there to you. And then it's a 10 minutes in engrave time, but you're still only that's going to cost you about $16-17. The total cost to use is about $34, as you can see. So you're talking it's almost 4 or 5 times the profit using the same materials, and roughly it's obviously 10 times the amount of engraving cut time, but it really goes to show what you can do with a simple quarter sheet of acrylic. If you were looking for an application or something that you could use as a tester for the material, and also if you're wondering what sort of product might I offer to my customers using this acrylic, or using the sort of stuff that we've shown you today, I think Kelly covered off a lot of the really big ones. I mean, obviously signage is a huge one. You can see here again, POP signage, displays, that sort of thing. But then also little pieces, stuff like cake toppers, decorations for weddings and birthdays and things like that. That business has exploded for us, and it's brilliant. People are doing fantastic stuff with the
earrings.
Absolutely, yeah, earrings and jewelry, no question. I'm trying to think. I mean, I will say, even so, when people think of signage with acrylic, I think, at least for me, I always think of like large scale acrylic, but I've seen really small individual signs done with acrylic, particularly if you layer 2 colors on top of one another, and they are gorgeous. They're beautiful. If you're interested in seeing some more of the products we showed today, this is our website here, engraving-supplies.ca in Canada, and I believe engraving-supplies.com in the United States.
Correct.
Either way, you can navigate them the same way. Up there at the top, you have all the breakdowns of our different stuff. In the States here, you can see, you can go to the acrylic tab. You have all the different products right there underneath. You can scroll through. You can see all the beautiful colors, all the different options. And I believe there are even some sample kind of, as you can see there on the top, some sample applications, some different things to get you inspired. And as Kelly mentioned, that legend to give you an idea of what's possible with the particular material you're looking at. So indoor, outdoor, rotary, all that good stuff. Same thing for us here, acrylic sheets, and then all the different options are there. One I might get you to go to really quick, Lev, if you can, is the glitter. I don't know if it's near the bottom there, I believe, because we can show some of the colors that we didn't have available on the slide there. But as Ellen said, that bright red and the green there on the far end, 8 different colors for the glitter right now. And then as Kelly hinted, possibly more colors coming in, fall, winter, did you say, Kelly? Roughly, maybe?
Yeah, well, in Europe, they're releasing it in the fall, so it'll take an extra couple of months for us to get it. Hopefully,
cool.
We'll get it before Christmas.
It'll be a present to us. Question really quick from chat here. Who is the best person to contact for custom orders? Depends sort of where you live, if I'm honest.
Where, yeah.
Yeah. If you're in Canada, it is Kelly. if you're in the United States, would it be yourself, Alan?
Yes, it would be me.
Okay. I don't know if we can, maybe we'll try and pop up. Yes, thank you, Lev. You read my mind. So there is Kelly's email if you'd like to get a hold of her specifically for any questions regarding our materials. Also, if you reach out to our customer service in a pinch, they are tremendously knowledgeable and also very helpful. I've had the good luck of getting to speak with our customer service, obviously in Canada, but then also in the United States. If they don't know the answer to your question, they will absolutely track it down for you and get a hold of you again. So, don't hesitate to reach out to us just at the general inquiries number, whether it be, in the United States or in Canada. Our customer service staff will always try and help you out and get the answer for you, even if they don't know it off the top of their heads, for sure. Anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap up for this month? I think we covered off a lot of stuff. I'm sorry we're never able to get through quite as many materials as I expect us to be able to, but I wager that that's my fault more than anything. So,
well, we like to cover and get all of the questions covered. So if woods is another stream, then that's good, because acrylics is a big chunk of our stuff.
True. Yeah. Am I right in saying it represents kind of our second biggest category, let's say, next to accessories?
Yeah, which, I would say, well, yeah, I'd say all of our categories are pretty big on their own. Like,
this is true.
We have the laminates, and then we have the acrylics, the woods, the accessories,
metals.
So and the metals, yeah. So
if there is anything, so again, I would encourage anyone who, if there's a particular material you want to know more about that you didn't see covered today, so Kelly took us through all of the laminates in our first monthly consumables stream last month, which you can find on the American and Canadian YouTube channels. So you could always go check that out. Absolutely worth a watch. If there's one that you still haven't seen that you want to be covered, pardon me, shoot us an email, youtube@troteclaser.ca. Let us know what you'd like to see next. I think woods will be likely the next category we cover off, but it doesn't have to be. If there's something that you want to learn more about and you're the only person who emails me, good luck for you. Chances are next month is standoff month. So, we're good to go. Alan, how about yourself? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just any kind of final thoughts before we close out for the hour?
No, again, just any questions that you have that you haven't asked here, send them either direct to Kelly or I, or send them to customer service, and somebody will get back to you with the answer.
Absolutely. To answer your last kind of question here, Joey, if you're not sure, yes, Lev has got it exactly what I was going to say. If you're not sure what you need for a job, the best thing you can do, at least in Canada, is to visit mytrotec.ca. Kelly mentioned it earlier. It is, a tremendous resource. You can, so Lev is going to show it here on the screen. Thank you, sir. You can hop in there. You can put in a ticket. That'll go directly to our application team here in Canada, who will get back to you ASAP. Typically they're very, very fast. They'd be able to tell you, how to do material testing. They'd be able to, troubleshoot perhaps your file with you, that kind of thing. If you have anything, that's troubling you when it comes to a particular application, they are your first port of call, absolutely, in terms of, where you could reach out and get some suggestions.
And settings as well.
Settings is a big one, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But as Kelly mentioned, if you're ever curious about settings, there are kind of those two go-tos that I try and mention as much as I can. In the Engraver's Guide, there is a QR code. And then also on the YouTube channel, you can visit, finding the perfect laser settings, I believe it's called, something of this nature. And it has, in the description of that YouTube video, the YouTube video itself shows you how to do it, but then in the description, there's also links to basically like grids or testing grids that you can use to test your laser power, your laser depth, your Z offset, all of that stuff. It's the way we go about testing any new material, and I still think is the strongest way to kind of find the right laser settings for whatever it is that you'd like to do. I believe that, so we're just past an hour. I don't think there are any more questions. Obviously, a huge thank you to both to Kelly and Alan for joining us once again. They're both very busy, as you might imagine, so I would really appreciate that you guys can take the time. particularly right now, it is a crazy time for Trotec. We have a lot of new stuff coming. We have some exciting new launches. I mean, as Kelly, sort of teased earlier, we have some exciting new launches coming materials-wise. We have some new stuff coming laser-wise. So there's a lot of stuff on the go. We hope you guys will stay tuned for each of our live streams each Friday. They are available on our YouTube channels and all that stuff afterwards as well. So if you ever miss one, definitely check it out. Any questions you've got, either if you don't get a chance to ask it in chat or if you're watching this later on YouTube, I mean, again, a huge thanks to you for watching. Throw it in the YouTube comments. We always do our best to read them as soon as we can, to get back on questions that we see there and to respond to you. So we're always on the lookout. We definitely... I was going to say we know the answer to this stuff, but Kelly and Alan know the answer to these things. So certainly, we'll always try and put you in contact with the right person. But I guess, a huge thank you to Kelly and Alan, and a huge thank you to all of you for joining us and for watching either now or in the future. Looking forward to seeing you guys all again next month for another materials masterclass, and next week hopefully for another Trotec Laser Live. Take care, everyone.